I have not stretched today. I'm trying to sit cross-legged and it's not really working out. Hair on point today, skin on point today. We're feeling pretty good. Hi, if you have never been to this channel before, my name is Catherine. I want to talk about books. I just realized there's something called the BookTube Newbie Tag. Was anyone gonna tell me? I had no idea this existed. This is basically just a way for new channels to introduce themselves and to talk about why they started the channel and to talk about their book journey. I saw it first on Nikel's Nook. She just had like a very nice, candid talk, basically why she was starting this BookTube channel, and there's kind of set questions that everybody answers. So I thought, since I'm new still, I've made some videos, but I still consider myself a newbie, that I'd jump on in. I thought I'd try it. Yeah, this is just to get to know me and to get to know my book preferences, so I'll go through each of the questions. Why did you start this channel? My brother made me. No, I mean, he was an encouragement, but I was watching a lot of YouTube videos in general because of 2020. There was nothing to do, so I was just watching YouTube a bunch. And I started watching first beauty YouTube videos, and then I found out that there is a whole world called BookTube, just people uploading videos about books, and I had no idea this existed until the pandemic. So then I just started watching them a bunch, and I was like, I would love to do this. Like, I actually think I would love to do this. And it was my brother who incepted me with the idea, but it was always kind of there. Like, I always knew I kind of wanted to start it. And I wanted to start it just because I read a lot of books that I don't find a lot of my friends or family are reading alongside with me or have any interest in. And so I was like, well, what if I just like started putting it out there when I'm reading? And there's probably people out there who are reading the same books as me and would love to talk with them about them. So I wanted to start the channel, so here we are. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to YouTube? Fun and unique things. I mean, I'm another white girl starting a BookTube channel. I don't know in that way if it's anything unique, but I think I read books that aren't necessarily focused on BookTube. This is no hate at all, but I'm not super into YA books. I'm not super into romantasy or really a lot of fantasy. I don't find I'm really into books that are talked about so much on BookTube. I have found the people on BookTube who are talking about classics, and that's really what I focus on. I also read a lot of horror, which sometimes I find people who are into that. I read a lot of nonfiction and a lot of history, and that's a section I don't often find people talking about. So I think I just read a real variety of books. I read like, my year in books is vast and weird, and I just think I can kind of, you know, bring in new genres maybe that people aren't talking about. And I have some interesting ideas that I want to start up that I don't necessarily have seen done. I want to do like book interviews with people where we have just a one-on-one book club, almost a buddy read, and like talk about books that way. I have a bunch of other ideas that I won't share now. I'll wait till maybe I launch them later, but I think I just bring a different variety type book to this scene. What are you most excited for this new channel? I mean, I've already gotten it kind of started up. I'm just really excited for the books I'm going to read and what videos what videos are inspired by those books that I've read. If there's a book that I've read that I'm like really excited about, it might take me down a whole journey in what types of videos I make, either vlogs about them or just books about that particular genre or that writer. So I'm just excited to see where it takes me in that. And just excited to see what books I bring, what books I read this year, either that are inspired from BookTube or just from my own life, and being able to share it on the channel, because this is also a way for me to just document, almost like a video diary of my books and my relationship with the books that I've had in the past year. So I'm just excited for that, to just document it and to keep it for posterity. Like, I don't know, I just think it's a cool way to keep kind of a video diary. So I'm excited to document that as I go throughout the year. Why do you love reading? This is such a hard question. Like, this is a very hard question. Because I don't even think about it. I haven't had to think about it. I just have always done it. I've been reading probably since I was like 3 or 4, so some of my earliest memories are me like picking up a book and looking at it. maybe not understanding right away, but just being interested in books. I've always, I think, had an intrinsic draw to books, and I think it's because I just love stories. Like, I love stories. I'm an actor as well, so I think that I take it to another level, and that I like to interpret the stories as well. But there's something in reading a brand new story with characters, and it's this odd thing where it's not real, but it becomes so real to you, and it's just the best. Like, it can comfort you in times where you're not doing great, or it can be something that inspires you to create your own things. And I think the whole world is just made up of stories, either stories we retell over and over again in different flavors and different accents, or we're constantly trying to mine those to find new things and new answers, and that's just, we're a species that's constantly questioning why, and I think stories are often the vehicle to help us ask why. To do that, I either like to listen to them, but mostly just like reading it from the page. I'm also a very visual learner, so the way I've retained things usually is if I write it down or if I see it written down. So reading has just always stuck with me in that way. And there's stories and books I've read that have stuck with me for years and aren't going anywhere. So I love it. I love it, and I've never stopped reading. I've never had a slump where I didn't read for a minute. I've always been a constant reader. I got too many tabs open. What book or book series got you into reading? Again, I've been reading for so long that I don't know, like I couldn't name the particular book that like got me into reading. Although my mother can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the first book I ever read was D.W. is a Picky Eater by Mark Brown. But I think the book, if we're talking classics, if we're really saying like, oh, what's the thing that kind of put me on the trajectory and the path for classics, I would say it's probably Pride and Prejudice. I read that, I think 8th grade, and I was just sold. Like, I was like, this is amazing. I also grew up watching the BBC Pride and Prejudice miniseries, so I was familiar with the story, but I was so blown away by Jane Austen's writing and the story and the characters, and how it was a story that was so, to me, I mean, I'm like 13, and anything that was from, like the 70s was old, but the fact this was a book from the early 19th century and I could still so connect with it, I thought was amazing. And that is what I love about classics too, is that they're these time capsules of what I guess life was like, or what the values were like at that time, but we're still able to connect with it, and they stand the test of time. So that was definitely the book that got me into classics, if I had to pick one for that. But like the book that started the reading, I'm like, I have no idea. I don't even know. If we're talking series that I loved, especially as a kid, I loved the Magic Tree House books. I loved the Harry Potter books. Back when they were big, the Twilight books, I was into those. I also loved, which I don't see anyone ever talk about, the Sisters Grimm series. It was about these two sisters. It was very fairy tale based. I loved those books, but I don't know if anyone else has read those. So those are series that I liked as a kid, but now even as an adult, I'm not really a series person, so those are the ones that, really got me into what I would go on to reading, I would say, but they're not indicative of my series reading now, because I don't really read series. It's not really my thing. What questions would you ask your favorite booktuber? First of all, I don't know if I have a favorite booktuber. I don't know if I can pick one. But if I had to ask, I'd probably just ask, how do you come up with your video ideas? Because ones will come up and I'm like, that is such a good idea. Like, where did you come up with that? And often I feel videos I want to do, will make the video, but make a disclaimer at the beginning that's like, this was taken from somebody. Like, I feel like I just, because I haven't been on it enough yet, I can't come up with my own ideas yet. They'll come, and I have some things that are rattling around, but I would ask them, how do you generate these ideas? And also, how do you find the time to read so much? I mean, I know a lot of them, this has become their job. BookTube is their jobs, hence the reading has become the job. But how do you find the time and the motivation? I'm kind of a short spurts reader. I'll read, I like to read for an hour, but there are people who can read for 2, 3, 4 hours, and I'm like, I can't. Like, I can only do it kind of in short spurts. So I wonder how they get all that reading done. I would want to know if they have any habits, tips. Leave them below. What challenges do you think starting a BookTube channel will be the hardest to overcome? I think just the consistency. My problem was I started this channel last year, technically, and I was pretty good about consistent upload. I did once a week, but I'm someone who I'll have a habit, and if I forget to do it once, the whole habit just starts to completely drop off. And so I think I missed 1 week, and then that was it. And then I got distracted, and then I got lazy. You don't need to be here for that. I think the hardest thing for me will be the consistency, like just to like keep the momentum going and to keep doing it. Especially because this is just for my own enjoyment. This is just like, I find this as just like a creative outlet and a hobby, so I don't, not that I don't have the motivation, but I have a little bit less motivation if there's not someone like watching over me being like, are you gonna get that done? If it's just me, I am my own worst critic, but also I let myself off the hook. Like, I am a nice boss to myself. So I might go, oh, you're good, you don't have to do one this week. But I think I've like fallen in love with it again, like doing this, sitting and talking in front of the camera and talking about books. So I already feel more motivated than I was last year to like keep making them. It also helps I got some new stuff, some new equipment, and that definitely helps the motivation, because the editing process, the filming process has just been so much easier with this new stuff. I think people would probably say like the engagement and like getting people to click and like and growing a following base. I really don't care too much about that. I'm just happy to post them, and if people want to come and talk, they're more than welcome. But I'm not someone who's looking to make a living from this. I'm not looking to, this is just really truly just for fun. So I'm not even worried about that. It's really just the consistency, I think, because I want to do it every week, and this is something I want to continually do. So yeah, holding myself accountable. Don't we all want to do that? When did you start reading? I kind of answered that before. I started reading when I was like 3 or 4. I was an only child, and I think my mom was like, you pick up books all the time, why don't we just teach you to read? And I have the time because you're my only kid. And so by the time I started kindergarten, I was reading. So I've been reading a very long time. And like I said, I'm not someone who usually goes through reading slumps. I've always had, as far as I can really remember, I've always had like a personal book alongside anything I was reading for school that I bring with me to school, and sometimes read under my desk, because I was that kid. So I've always had a personal book alongside my reading books, and then and as I've become an adult, if I don't have something to read, I'm like, which is impossible because my apartment now is filled with books that I've bought that are ready to be read. So I am never without a book. I also go everywhere with a book, so yeah. Where do you read? Oh my god. I read everywhere. My favorite place to read is definitely at home, like if I'm like on the couch, under a blanket, with my cat, and with my little mug of coffee or tea, I'm like, we are set. So that's one of my favorite places to read, but I'll read anywhere. I used to commute by train, and the train used to be a big place that I would get a lot of reading done. But now I drive to work, I don't commute by train anymore, so I do audiobooks. So it's almost like I wake up and I like read a little with my breakfast, close that book, put on a new book while I'm driving to work. I read at work, on my breaks, at lunch, I always have a book with me. And then just anywhere I have one. I always bring a book with me, because you never know. You never know when you will be able to read. You've gotten to the doctor's and they say, yeah, it'll be 2 minutes, and you're waiting at the doctor's for an hour. And I don't love being on my phone for that long. Like, I can literally feel my brain kind of like dead inside if I'm on it for like more than 30 minutes. So I would be happy to then put the phone away and open up a book and readjust my mind to words on a page as opposed to a screen. So I always bring one with me, so that means I read anywhere. Like, anywhere I get the chance, I will do it. What kind of books do you like to read? Classics! I'm a big classics reader. I've read kind of the big heavy hitters at this point, and I think that's also kind of a mission for this channel, is to like rediscover maybe hidden classics or classics no one talks about and bring them to light. I think that's something I'd really want to do, because I love that. I love reading those like kind of hidden gem classics, as well as the heavy hitters, like the big name boys, the big Charles Dickens and the Jane Austens. I love them, obviously. I also love nonfiction, specifically history, and then just like special topic nonfiction books. There's a book called Salt, and it's all about just the history of salt and its significance in the world, as you know, being used for commerce and being used for trade, and like that's to me like a very niche special interest book, and I love those types of books because it gives you just almost like something you learned in history, but it just like expands it. So I love anything like that. And then I love like contemporary fiction, anything fiction I'm into. I love a made-up story. I also love, which is something I want to talk about that people don't talk about I think a lot, are plays. I love to read plays. Being someone who studied theater, it's something that I've always read, and they're an easy, quick read if you need to beef up that TBR. If you need to beef up your reading goal, plays. Just giving you a hint. What else do I love? Oh, I love memoirs and autobiographies. And biographies, like books written about famous people, or just interesting people. I really love memoirs about people that aren't super famous. Like you wouldn't necessarily know them if you saw them on the street or knew their name if you saw it, but they just have had an interesting life or a very interesting lived experience that should be shared. Especially if they're well written, then it's like, so. Memoirs, autobiographies. I do love horror. I love anything kind of spooky. Stephen King books. I love Charles Dickens books. He's one of my favorite writers, even though I got kind of sick of him last year because I read too much. Classics are the big one. But yeah, then anything fiction, non-fiction, narrative non-fiction is good with me. What does my book collection look like? You may say I'm a hoarder. I'm a little bit of a hoarder. I love to buy books. The rush of like getting a book that's been on your TBR is like the best feeling. But then those poor books sit on sidelines for quite a while I finish everything else up. My book collection, I have to say though, it is large. It's a little cumbersome because they're kind of now just hiding all over my apartment. But it looks really good. Like, I have some really good titles. And I've had the thought, I'm like, if we were like snowed in and we had nowhere to go and like no power, so there's no, you know, my phone's dead and I can't watch TV, I'm like, I only have my books to like entertain myself and to read. I like look around, I'm like, I have some like really like rich pieces of literature. I have like some of the great works like just sitting in my home. And I'll probably insert some clips of what my bookshelves look like in my living room. They were a gift from my mom and I love those bookshelves. They're gorgeous. I might do a bookshelf tour, although my bookshelves are a little chaotic. They're not super well organized, so I don't know if I will. So yeah, I would say it's chaotic, it's eclectic, it's rich, it's messy. She's complicated, my book collection, but I love it. I love the process of collecting books and figuring out which ones to give away, which ones to keep. I have a little book stamp that I got for Christmas that it's now used when I like solidify that a book has become part of my permanent collection, and it just feels so good. So yeah, it's a big collection, but I love it. I love it, and I'm not gonna stop buying books. You can't stop me. That's also some other videos that I've done in the past and will do more of, I'm sure, is when I just find the jackpot of like places that sell their books for 50 cents, $1, and I just go. But I think that's it. I think those are all the questions. Yes. Thank you so much for watching if you've come this far, and thank you so much if you're brand new. Welcome. Stay a while. I'm here. I'm gonna talk about books. Like, subscribe, comment. But yeah, hope to see you in the next one, and take care. Bye!